Thank you, Mr. Emmert. Okay, we're going to start off the meeting with approving 2 sets of minutes. The first one is from the July 11th meeting. Are there any additions, corrections?
I went through it, I didn't have any problems, so unless everybody's got anything else, I'll make a motion to approve.
Nancy we found a word or two that was kind of out of place, and I think she made that correction when I was up here, so I'm good with it. I'll make a motion to approve.
So we have a motion and a second. Roll.
Mike? Yes. EJ?
Yes.
Gene?
Yes. Second set of minutes are for the July 18th meeting. That I believe was also a public hearing. Well, the public hearing was on the last one, okay. July 18th. Again, any additions, corrections?
No, she made a small fix that she mentioned general election rather than other election. But, you know.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Call for the vote?
Mike? Yes. EJ?
Yes.
Gene?
Yes. Okay, moving on. Tonight we have guest Mary Lambert, and she wants to talk about the museum property. So Mary, we will turn it over to you.
Okay, well, I wrote a letter to the trustees telling them that we would be interested in purchasing the property where the museum sits. It's about a 1/4 acre, and we own 6 acres which totally surround it. And I had spoken to PJ about this a year or 2 years?
Yeah, at least maybe 2 years,
Yeah, a couple years ago, and he had told me that that building had been, the thought when they fixed up the building would be that it possibly could be moved to the Adam Hall property, and that it had beams under it that would enable it to be moved. Currently, the building is used once a year after the Memorial Day parade, and there's no parking, there's no plumbing, you know, obviously there's no bathrooms. So it's really not, it's not doing the township much good being used one day a year, and I'm wondering how many people go. So I think it's, I like history, I like the building. I think the building would serve the township better if it were moved to Adam Hall. And we would be willing to purchase the property and give the township time to move the building.
Yeah, I can't argue with anything you just said.
I can't either.
The one thing is that that building is, I think, the only building in town that's on the National Register of Historic Places, and it's going to lose that designation if we move it. But I refer back to what you said. You're correct. We're not getting any type of use out of that building.
Well,
I did, when we did the repair work up there, and it was a major repair. We got a price, we got a quote from Sturm. They're out of Cortland. They're about the only ones still in business doing such things now. The last thing I remember them doing locally is they moved the rectory from St. Helens over
Right.
there west on 87. They're still in business as far as I know. That quote, that was years ago, that was probably 2007-ish, maybe 8, was when we did all that work up there. 25 to 30,000 to move it, and at the time, the estimate that we got from CEI with the wires to move from there to Adam Hall was going to be another 25 to 40,000. Now, from then, those costs have, I guess, just skyrocketed. The CEI
Then you're
costs.
also talking building a foundation for it.
Yeah, honestly, that's the cheapest part. Yeah, that's the
Getting
cheapest
all
they're
part.
not gonna build a basement, you would just footers and a block platform or.
Well, it's wherever we
Well, you
decide to
still-
go with
You still have
that.
to get the power, the gas over there,
Over the years, has anybody ever asked if Century Village was interested in it?
No?
No, we
No?
didn't,
Okay.
never thought about giving it away, we always thought we'd keep it for ourselves.
You had said, PJ, that it could be used for weddings if you rent it out.
Well, that's kind of the board at the time when we got going on Adam Hall. That was, I think, something that was envisioned by, more than one of us. Like the old Auburn churches up at the Historical Society.
Right.
And then you got the meeting hall, banquet hall, whatever, with the restrooms that serve the whole property. And that was kind of the thought with some of the ingress egress at Adam Hall, that could be done that way. Anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is those costs are no longer relevant, the work I did 15 years ago on that.
No,
So,
I know.
you know, I appreciate that, but timeliness, we'd have to start over with all that first.
Right.
Harry, let me ask you a question. Let me shoot you a question. If we were to even entertain selling that property, which I'm not sure we are, but if we were, would you be willing to pick up the costs and move that building?
I think it might exceed the value of the land. Okay, like, the commercial realtors along 44 are asking $100,000 an acre for commercial land, and that's a quarter of an acre.
What are you gonna do with it?
We would add it to our property, and I think our property would, you know, there's not a whole lot of property in Auburn that is available for business. If you look at your zoning map, it's almost entirely residential. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I think it's great, except that you really want to make the best use of the property that can be used for business, so that.
If we sold it to you, what would you do with it?
I would-
Besides add it to your portfolio?
We would sell it.
What would we do
But-
with
but we
the
would have-
building or the land?
The land. You need the land, you surround it, so obviously you need that piece of property to do something.
No, we don't have, I have buyers calling all the time, and they all want to know what is this chunk in the middle, right? I can divide the property, and then it's not anybody's chunk in the middle. We have enough frontage on each side of it to divide it. So I can do that. But before I do that, I thought it might be worth discussing this with the township, because it's kind of like, once we've done that, then nobody needs it.
I don't know how the board feels, but I would only entertain it if you would be willing to move it, because we certainly don't have the funds to move it.
If moving it, it sounds like from what PJ says, moving it is gonna be like possibly $60,000-$80,000.
Yeah, I can't put a number on it. It was Stein Builders, it wasn't Stern Builders, it was Stein, I don't remember who that was, and they are out of court. But that's where I'd have to start, if those guys are still there that did that, and they went over that building thoroughly to give me that price. That was a good quote I
I
had
remember
back
CI
then.
was a big hunk of change too, just
But-
dropping
and-
the wires
Yeah,
to.
that equaled the cost of the move.
If Mary did it, she could investigate those costs, we wouldn't have to.
I didn't like that.
That's what I'd be,
So are you saying that the only way you'd be interested in selling the property is if we absorb the cost of moving the building?
that would be my take on it.
Then
I can't speak for my.
I would have to see what numbers we're talking about. It sounds like you're talking, if it's I think it's actually a third of an acre up there. You're talking somewhere south of $50,000. Is that what you're kicking around?
It has
the
no-
value
but
on
it
that
has
land?
no,
It has no value like that, she's gonna split it up and make a couple lots out of it.
no, your zoning is 2 acre minimum,
Add to it.
Yeah, to what she has.
and I already have 2 lots if I want to do that. I have 6 acres. So,
Yeah, well, I appreciate the interest.
I don't mind making a couple phone calls and seeing if we're in the ballpark or not, but if you have the numbers and the sources, if you could email
I have
them
the
to me.
source, the numbers are historical now, so,
Yeah, that's probably true.
yeah.
Very historical, I think.
Yeah.
And CEI, if I asked them to get us a quote on that now, I'd have that by 2027.
Yeah, I know. So, well, what quote, do you have copies of your old quotes?
We have the one from Stein. I don't think we ever got anything on it from CEI. Then.
There may be something in the.
So it
minutes.
has absolutely no value to the city or to the township to have that church located someplace where you can actually do, have a little historical building that you use for different functions.
Well, it does to me. I mean, is it worth for the township to unload $250,000 to do that?
Well, no.
Not right now.
No, but I don't think you're talking $250,000. I mean, but where it sits, you really only open it once a year?
Yes. And
I mean,
actually, that's optimistic,
What
because
does it
COVID
cost
kept
to
it shut for 2
maintain that
years.
building, to open it once a year?
We pull the meter on it, we've made arrangements with CEI on that. The guys are up there, twice annually, we do a once-over on the building. It's sided now, Mary, so there's not a paint issue up there. Once we squared the building back up, we did that's a 100-something-year-old slate roof up there, and we had a slate roofer come in and repair it. So we're good for, I don't know, they say they're worth.
So it really is not an
Well, it will be
expense at
good.
all?
Yeah.
Well,
Maintenance is very, very, well, I can say it's very little, but the fact is in 2007, we spent a ton of money on that building.
we spend a ton of fun, and Mary's absolutely right. We get 6 people that go through it one time a year. If it were up to me, I'd call Century Village and ask them if they want it. And then he could be right next to the Auburn Community Church up there.
They would probably have recommendations on movers, Century.
They haven't moved anything in a long time.
Yeah.
They're hurting for money worse than
Yeah, they are.
the townships.
Were they interested?
I have no idea, I never asked.
Oh,
But like you said, they're hurting for money, and that's a long move, and that's an expensive move, you know?
I can remember sitting on the lawn of Auburn School watching them move the Auburn Church down East Washington Street to Burton. Now I'm dating
I'm
myself.
sure you're always looking for a tax write-off. You could donate the remaining property around it to us, so we can put in a septic system and.
Well, now, there's an idea I had thought of.
We gotta learn to think out of the times.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, the previous owner they reached out at one point about donating a bunch of that land to the
Yeah, they
township.
did.
None of it ever came to pass, but.
You know what, I had a relationship with the previous owner, and the person that reached out to you with that offer was one of several people, and I don't honestly think it would have been approved by the others, but that's history.
Yeah, we sat right at this table, it's the other way.
I know, but what I'm saying is that I'm not sure that actually could have happened.
Well, it never did, so.
It never did anyhow, so we can always wonder. But I'm doubtful whether we would want to absorb all the cost. But there's no value to the township? Are you guys not willing to?
Well, sure, there's value to it, as I said, but do we have the idle cash to spend on
Okay,
something like that right now? No, we don't.
so there's just no money available to put toward it?
Not for that kind of.
Yeah, we really, Mary, it's like anything else, it's on the wish list. Do you ever get to it? Sometimes you never get to the end of the wish list, so,
Why don't you look on
I
your
do
end just to see
appreciate
what
your
it would
interest.
cost? And then maybe we can meet again. And like I said, I certainly can't speak for my 2 associates, but I'd be willing to call Century Village and see if they want it.
what would be the process to sell it?
Okay, well, like Richard just made a suggestion, maybe we should just buy the property and keep the building. And then it'd be our decision whether to move it or tear it down or do whatever. How would the township
I don't think
feel
that's
about
on
it?
the table,
No,
is
that's
it?
not on the table.
So you want to keep the building?
I would like to keep the building, yes.
Yeah, it's a bit of history. It's what price you put on,
So it does have a value?
yes,
It does, okay.
an emotional value. Maybe not a monetary value, but, it's not something like this isn't just our decision. I'd like to
It's
hear
within
hear
your
from the
power,
public.
but you have to-
What would they like done with this? For us to unilaterally say, here's what we're gonna do without getting any feedback from the community whatsoever, I think that'd be premature.
No, I
It
agree.
doesn't
I
belong
mean,
to
you
us,
guys
it
are-
belongs to the people of Auburn Township.
You're
They
the
belong
rep-
to us on paper.
You're the representatives of the people, but I don't know, how do you go out to the people and ask them?
Well, we have ways, we have our website, we put that out as a question on there, just to see if people would have any comments as to what they feel they would like to see done with the museum.
Maybe that's worth putting on your website to see if there'd be anybody in the community who would want to contribute to that.
like I said, you know, we can go pretty far on this, we can start looking into that, we can start moving buildings and stuff, but we haven't, you know, we haven't really made a decision. This is the first time we're being approached with this, so.
You know, we didn't come here expecting you to decide tonight.
And we're not.
And so we all expected the same
I
thing.
mean, she does have the contract, she's holding it right there, but she.
No, I don't have a contract. I have my map, the same, I have the letter, well, I don't have the letter I sent you because I couldn't find it and I didn't take the time to reprint it. But I have my map and I thought, you know, if there was any discussion.
I think all three trustees are on the same page as far as we want to preserve the history of our township. It's important to us whether it's at the Century Village or here, but we don't have the finances to move it. So
Well,
I think we're all in agreement that you'd have to move it for us if in fact we were to sell you that property. And I think that's, right now, that's probably where all three of us are sitting until we talk about it further. Am I right in saying
I would
that?
concur with that.
I will ask Century Village, you know, I know people who live in Burton, but I'm pretty sure that the answer would be they don't have the funds and they have quite a good assortment of historical buildings there. I kind of emotionally like the idea of it being close to where it, if it isn't exactly where it was, close to where it was. You know, because you know, Auburn Township doesn't have a lot of a center to look at that's really nice. You know, I mean, it's coming along, but it would be nice that, I'd like to see it there by Adam Hall. You know.
So would we.
Yeah, I'm not gonna, I will, as a board, you bring it up, and I appreciate your interest. We can contact that moving company if they're still in business. It was a family-run business, so, gosh, the guy that looked at it 15 years ago was my age, so I assume he might still be around.
I don't want to waste your time at this meeting, but can you email me those contacts? I think my information's on the letter.
Yes, from Stein, absolutely.
Or text me, I don't know if I put my email.
And then, as I said, the other big one was CEI. Yeah, that was the other big expense in moving. You know, and once you get up to obviously you gotta have a place to put it up here at Adam Hall, but those are all, you know, you can do a full basement, you can do just a foundation crawl space, you can, probably would wanna do heat.
I think we're ready to move on.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't know.
Okay?
Okay,
We're good?
all right.
All right.
I'll wait for an email from PJ.
Okay.
Right?
I'll get you that Stein contact.
Next on the agenda is scheduled reports, and we'll start with Mr. Kitco.
Okay, gentlemen, should all have a copy of activity for the month of July. Process 20 applications or 20 receipts. We have 4 new houses, bringing the total to 14 for the year. We also have conditional use and or variances, and we probably have 2 or 3 more next week. Crash Champion, as you all know, or maybe you don't know, that's the company that had the building that burned in the Rad Van complex. Well, they also have 2 other buildings in that complex, and so they are renovating and doing some upgrades to those, and still waiting for the insurance company to get done what they're doing as far as rebuilding the other one. So they've been in communication for a month and a half, and they are progressing, but they do have to come in for a couple conditional uses, 1 renewal and 1 additional, because they now have 3 buildings. And so that's, and we did have 2 variance requests granted this past month as well. But I anticipate we have 2 more, I believe, on the books for next month.
Any questions for Frank from the board?
Oh, and let me add one more thing to the Crash Champion situation. You may or may not even see it, but there is a temporary set of stairs that goes from the ponds, parking lot, up into the back of the Rad Band complex. And they have entered into an agreement, Grass Champion has, to utilize part of the ponds parking lot until the construction is completed. And it's not for any vehicles that need to be worked on, it's for the employees to park in while the construction is taking place, so. And supposedly, they requested that for 1 year, and we've granted that till next July. If they need to go further, we'll see. At one time, that was even discussed between Raddick, or Rad Van Complex, because Ed Raddick is the owner, or one of the owners, and the pond, about utilizing that shared parking situation, because the pond has quite a bit of parking that very seldom is used completely, so that may come down the road, I don't know.
Frank, is there something being built on Mud across the street from the industrial park next to the gravel? And
No, that's
They're just
Coonley.
clearing?
It's, yeah.
they're just clearing, they're not building?
Well, Coonley has, his mining permit is not expired. He has done a certain percentage of restoration, but he still has an open mining permit. And we don't have any control over that, it's all controlled by the state, but we did make the initial inquiries and so forth and so on about what's going on, you know, he's just extending or doing, continuing.
Okay, like I said, it looked like they were clearing to build
Right,
something, and I just,
they're stripping the topsoil, and, I don't know if they're gonna actually mine or not,
any questions for Frank on the board? Any questions for Frank and the public? Okay, we'll move on. Emmerich Gordon, Highway Superintendent.
Luke, Auburn Township Road Department report for July 2022. Capital improvement projects are all underway with the chip seal of Wing and Franks Road, crack sealing of various roads, and the asphalt resurfacing of 7 roads in our inventory. The chip seal actually began today, and we reviewed that number, and it did come down. It came down on the aggregate, so we're good. This should be a 2-day process. They should be done by the end of the day yesterday with layer dates. The crack sealing of the various roads right now, they're over in Lucky Bell, and they're doing that subdivision first, and that did come in at $46,000, and I'm comfortable that we're okay. We'll complete the entire program.
With the chip seal adjustment and the fact that Stafford Road stuck exactly to the contract price, yeah, we think we're pretty good to do that whole program.
Then the resurfacing of 7 roads in our inventory. That's Sedge, Starbush, Ladue Trails, Auburn Glen, Queensway, St. James, and Bartholomew Road. And they do have intermediate down on everything except Queens. And that should be done tomorrow, I do believe. And then it would be, I imagine, I think next week they're moving back in to do they'll be doing aprons, and they'll come back in and do the finished surface on that. Stafford Road reconstruction project is winding down and nearing completion. One of the things that they've been waiting is to establish growth on the banks. Once that's done, and we're pretty close, I'll remove the ditch checks and the silt fence as well. I did talk with the old Petzock home there, the owner there, and the excavator there, PJ. I do have Weaver Tree coming in to take on 7 more stumps that are in that back bank, and then his own excavator will bring in that grade of that back slope, so that'll be off our plate as well. And then there is a couple items on the county's checklist, their punch list, but just a couple things, and I think after that we're good, so. A new submission date has been set by the county engineers for next year's capital improvement projects, which is August 22nd. It typically was September, the end of September, that we would hand those in. The intent is to give their office ample time to inspect, review, and begin design and plan for the 16 townships and the county. And in turn, this should give the townships the opportunity to address any issues that may be involved in their respective projects. Once again, it's drainage, typically cross culvert pipes, ditching and stuff like that that the townships take on. What we've done in the recent past is rolled the repairs into the resurfacing, so that takes that off our plate as well and gives us more time to do other things. That being said, PJ, you and I will have to huddle together. There's been, this is a big number, it was 16% midsummer. It's a 20% increase now that we're looking at with our estimations. We went from 250,000 a mile, now we're at 300,000 without a 10% buffer included. So we're looking at 300,000. When we began this 16 years ago, when I got into it, it was 125,000 a mile.
Yeah.
So it's really increased. They're hoping that it does come back down. What I was instructed to utilize that number as far as a standard resurface, your typical 3.25, what we're doing on our various roads.
So say that again, it went from 125,000?
Well, that was when I started 16 years ago.
Well, that's when I was there too, so.
Yeah,
and
last
what is
year
it
was
now?
300,000.
From 125 to 300,000.
Yeah.
Everybody get that?
16 years.
Okay.
So that's a big.
And most of it in the last 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, the last 2 or 3, yeah. And what that did for us, typically what we did was we set our road program up to have 4 miles of road resurfaced every year in that carousel and come back at the 13 to 14 year mark. And we'd be right on the money, you know, from here in perpetuity, you know how things work. So what this does for us, it's going to bring our resurfacing back to about 3 miles a year. So we'll have to do some juggling here and look a little deeper into what we can make last longer through repairs and maintenance instead of resurface. In our conversation with Mr. Boris, we were talking about our chip seal, and he actually was saying that maybe chip seal may come back and be the answer for these fractured roads instead of putting a surface on it. Right now, chip seal is at 55,000 per mile. Is what we're looking at. Okay, ditching projects were done on Bartholomew, White Oaks, Wing, Marydale, Robinwood, Taylor May, Indian Hills, and Franks Road. The department's been mowing roadsides, and we've been taking care of bleed through on our chip roads when needed. Once again with limestone screens. They've been pretty good. Primarily it's the Thorpe area there, and we're getting new chip over here. So driveway culvert pipes were replaced on Creighton, Indian Hills, and Marydale Drive. What this does for us, this brings our residential requests coupled with last year's that were still on the books. We are about, I'd say, 98-99% through our residential requests for the year. And then what I'm hoping to do, and I spoke with the chief today, this will give my department a window to work on his, the slope over there where we had the trees all taken out. And I think we'll do a little bit of minor excavation, some topsoil work.
On the west side.
Yeah. Well, that's actually, it's on the east side, where we cleared it out, they'll be able to mow. And so we'll get some grass established there. And I have time to move in now to get a hand over there at the fire department. And as we discussed, it'd be a construction season long effort to get that in, so.
Even as it sits right now, it looks significantly better.
It does, but there's some grubbing there that we need to do, and we'll get grass established, so then take care of that. Auburn Township and Manawee Township joined forces and did asphalt patching on Crackle Road between State Route 44 and Thorpe Road. 8 loads of asphalt was used for these 2 road segments.
Manaway went in with us on the Crackle Road patching?
Yes, and we redid our agreements between the townships. Anything above $1,000, we're to approach the other township and share the expense. What we did this time is Brian had his trucks, they ran 4 truckloads, we ran 4 truckloads, same amount of guys on the crew, and we just split it down the middle.
Okay.
So there's no need for them to come to us or back and forth, so we did it like that. There was one weather event that did bring down a couple of trees on Fox Road, and that was recent. Other than that, it's been pretty quiet as far as storms and everything. And that's what I got. Oh, Gene, I'm sorry. No, one more thing. I spoke with Hartman Electric. Did Nancy fill you in on that?
No.
The generator, they're still hard to come by. It's now been bumped till April for delivery, just to let you know.
Wow.
That's
Supply chain?
Yes. The transfer switch is available, and what he'll do is go ahead and get the concrete pad poured, and we'll get that transfer switch in, so when the generator does come in, boom, boom, boom.
We should, well, we can still get concrete.
So, yeah. Please.
And switches.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that, then also, I came
April
back.
of next year.
Yeah, then also Gene, I also spoke with Dash Tree and Buckeye Excavating for the
Park.
For the park, and they're still on board, and although their quotes are good for 30 days, they're still on board to give us another quote once we get closer, so we'll have to work with Joe again to whatever we need to secure from him, and we'll be ready to go.
We've got Joe hooked up with the Conservancy now, so there's no
Okay.
intermediary anymore.
Okay,
I would like to think this is gonna get wrapped up.
right, okay.
We would like to think that.
Yeah, but we're still moving ahead, marching forward, and they're still in lockstep with us. So they're ready to give us quotes as soon as they want to move. So, there you go, that's what I got.
Okay. Is there any other questions on the board for Mr. Emmer? Is there any questions from anyone in the audience for Mike or for Emmer?
Just to thank you for doing the roads.
You're welcome.
Bartholomew needed it desperately.
Yes, sir. We will.
Okay. Michael Ludwig, our sexton, did submit a report. I guess I'll just review it here real quick. Cemetery report for April through July. Graves sold. It looks like we sold 5 graves. Graves transferred. 2 were transferred. 1 was sold back to the township. We had some ash interments, and we had some full burial interments. 7 headstone footers poured before Memorial Day, 4 headstone footers in line to be poured in the fall, and the cemetery fences are completed at Maple Shade and Shady Side. Okay, so that's the report on that. Now, I've had a couple calls, I think I brought it up at the last trustees meeting, about the one headstone that's facing west
Yeah.
on the first road to the cemetery corner. All the headstones face east. This one is facing west, and there are some people, I've had a couple of calls that are not happy with that. Now, we have a lot of rules and regulations, and I'm assuming, because I haven't looked at those rules and regulations, you know, we have rules about what you can plant, what you can't plant. Do we have any rules about which way the headstone should be planting? If you look at that grave up there, the grave, the headstone is at the back of the grave. That's number one. There's no other headstones up there where they're behind the grave.
With a footstone.
Yeah, and again, it's facing west. And I've had a couple people say, you know, what's up with that when everybody's facing east? I don't know. Any thoughts from the board on that? Is that a regulation we need to make, or
I'm sure
does
we
it
don't
matter?
have one. Sure we don't have one.
That's a first for me. I've
Yeah.
never heard anybody question.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's one of those things, probably never rule on it, because it seems pretty straightforward which way they're supposed to go.
Right.
Could we contact the family?
The family who has it turned the other way. Because not only would you have to turn it the other way,
You have to do another
You
footer.
have to do another footer.
You'd have to do
Move it the
another
other end,
footer.
yeah.
is that something we want to investigate or look at, or? I mean, I was told, I went down and I asked Mike when we went down there why that was, and he said that the family requested it that way so that when they pulled down that first drive, they could see the headstone, and it wasn't facing east.
Okay. Well, if we didn't have anything,
It's the only headstone in the cemetery that's facing west.
it might have been a good time to address that issue when the request first came in before we.
Yeah, that probably should have been, but again, if the sexton looked at the rules and there's no rule that it says it has to, he probably didn't.
Well, I mean, if Right now, we may be stuck with this one, but we may
Right.
wanna upgrade our rules to,
Do we want to look at the rules? I'm gonna have Nancy get us a set of the rules that we have. Maybe we should look at that.
Yeah, we're certainly not out of order or out of place to make rules regulating that. I mean,
Right.
I got a brother that's buried up at All Souls in Chardon, you're not allowed to have any, that's not grade
Right,
level, so.
right.
Yeah, so we can
All right.
regulate.
I'll ask Nancy to give me a set of those rules and we'll review them and see if that's something we need to do. And maybe have Michael contact the family and see if it would be a big imposition if they would, if we did change the rules. But like you said, it's already done. It's.
they're kinda grandfathered
They're kinda
in.
Yeah, if you were gonna hodgepodge it and
Yeah.
not regulate that, and you have headstones at each end, that would become a maintenance issue.
Right.
Wait, the things you think of 200
Yeah.
years later, you know?
Well, if you look at some of those real old ones, I mean, the names are all the way around. The whole family's died at once. Okay, so that's Michael's report. Okay, now we'll go to trustees, fiscal officer. We'll start with Michael Troyan.
Okay, the only thing I had, which was a question, and I'll address this to Mr. Kavanaugh and Mr. Gordon. The Welcome to Auburn sign we had down by Bainbridge Road that we had to remove from,
I know, yeah.
okay, so we still have that, correct?
Uh-huh.
And what's the status on relocating that to a,
Permission from the county as far as placement. I can't just call them, we were supposed to submit an official letterhead. That's considered highway use, so we just would address it to the county and ask permission. I think once they cleared the bank at Creekside going all the way up there towards Indian Hills,
Yeah.
that gave us the opportunity to stick it on that back bank there.
yeah,
So-
I know that's what we were waiting for, to get that cleared
Yeah, but
out.
we have to get permission from the county. So,
Okay.
is that, would you like that done?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
we should, because, you
Okay.
know, we have the sign, and
Yes, we
it is
do.
a main.
Are they done with that? Is that all cleared and everything?
The
bank?
The bank, yeah.
Riverside?
Well, and the funny part about this, the sign was obliterating traffic, not those hundreds of trees.
Yeah.
Is you're looking up the same back bank, so.
I'm guessing wherever we put it, we may want to confirm before we put it up.
Put up, right, yeah, we'll do that.
I know the original site where he had it up caused some problems with moving farm equipment.
Yeah,
That's
and
what was there, and I saw it, and that was legitimate, I saw it.
it was right at head level for the tractor.
It was right at head level, and they had front-end loaders moving goods over there, which means you've got to stay back from the road a little further than you would with a car, and that sign was right there, you couldn't see up there. Well, I saw it, and I
Of course.
deal with that, so.
Just playing the devil's advocate. The sign was in in Auburn. He's in Bainbridge, right?
Yeah.
So it's our right to put it in Auburn.
What was that? No, I think that was
It
in
was right,
Cambridge.
it was right there, right at,
Right.
It was on the west, or on the east,
it was, it was like within 15 feet of the
Yeah.
line. Yeah.
yeah, well, his gripe was legitimate there, it was, I saw it.
Okay, we'll look at getting that up by Creekside then, so.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
You got it.
Frank, speaking of signs, you know, I know people are very particular, especially in another township, about you have to have a permit to put a sign up, you gotta have a permit to put a sign up. I see all these Bainbridge poker things on Munn, I see them that. Do those people have signs? Do they have permits for those?
They do not have permits.
And so is that breaking our zoning, or what are they doing?
Well, if it's a temporary sign, we let it go. In other words, if it's 30 days or less, we let it go. All right, we don't charge a permit, but maybe we should, but the funny part is, they used to ask, now they don't ask, they just put them up. And I think they're putting them, some of them anyway, are putting them up because those individuals may belong to the civic club, and are actually members of that civics club.
And therefore,
And
so
they're
what?
putting the sign on their own property, and You know, and because it's 30 days or less, we don't normally bother them, you know, but.
We don't bother them, but they would bother us if we
Probably.
don't sign over there.
Probably.
That's a fact.
Probably. We can look into it.
Okay, anything else?
Nope.
Patrick?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot either. Gene, you saw that with, they're gonna do the walkthrough up at the park property there.
Yes.
I would do those once a year. Originally, when before we started developing the park, we had laundry lists of complaints in there as the four-wheelers and snowmobile trails were still being used. You know.
Dogs without leashes.
Well, this goes back before there was a dog walking area. So that was a very busy thing, and you might wanna, if you haven't done that with Shane, you might wanna,
Is that the letter?
yeah, check with him, they're going to Good Friday. Last few years, it's been a pleasant walk, you know, really, because we're not, I think word has finally gotten out that it's no longer a place for four-wheelers or.
Okay, I will contact Shane that I'll
Yeah,
use him there.
yeah. It's, they do that twice a year. It's not necessary to go walk it twice a year anymore because there's no problems like we used to have, but, since we're in limbo with our parking lot expansion, probably a good time to discuss that, I think it's,
Okay.
that's about all I have.
Well, and staying with that theme of the park, like I said, as a trustee who hasn't been around for a while, I don't get a lot of calls right now from residents, but again, these last 2 weeks I've had calls on the headstone, and the other one was, and there's a group of people in Auburn, and I know we just turned down that we weren't really interested in a cricket field, but now the big thing is pickleball. And I guess people over 60 love pickleball. And there's a lot of people in Auburn over 60 who want to play pickleball. And I got inundated with this information that Aurora's putting in pickleball, Twinsburg's putting in pickleball, Solon's putting in pickleball. I don't know if Bainbridge is putting in pickleball, but is there a chance that Auburn could put in pickleball? And I said, can you use a volleyball area? No, you cannot.
I don't know what pickleball is.
Well,
I'm not 60 for another 6 weeks.
you're not old enough, I guess.
Miniature tennis
Anybody
court.
here play pickleball? Anybody?
Anybody here know what pickleball is?
I do now.
It is,
It's
yeah.
a miniature tennis court.
It's a miniature tennis court and it's played with a big, like a big
Yeah.
bat, like a big ping pong paddle.
Yeah.
And a wiffle
And a
ball. A wiffle ball.
Is it a wiffle ball? I have no idea, but like I said, believe it or not, there's a group in Auburn who sent me this information. I said I would bring it up, and I'm bringing it up, so.
What are they gonna do? Put up a?
It's
the
like a
net?
tennis
The net,
net, yeah, it's
yeah.
like absolutely just like a tennis court, but smaller.
Well, I don't have any desire to put anything permanent up there. That was kind of the thing with the
It would have
cricket
to,
situation.
it would have to be permanent, I'm
It would
pretty
have to be
sure.
permanent.
So,
I don't know much about it, so.
just think about it, and we'll think about it. Think
Our
about
bocce
it.
court turned into a great sandbox for the
It
kids.
is,
Yeah.
it's the biggest sandbox in the county.
Yeah.
And the cats,
And cats too, I'm sure. We don't want to talk about
Make like a
that.
combination cricket,
and, yeah, pickleball courts, just keep that word pickleball down, because you never know, in the future, we might wanna put up a pickleball court. Okay, Fred,
The only thing I have to report right now is that I've been working with Dan Matsko, Assistant to the Fiscal Officer. Starting to bring him up to speed on how to make entries into UAN and take care of different aspects of that. And we are trudging along that road. That's about all that I have.
how's it going, Dan?
Lot to learn.
Glad to learn. Is he getting it?
He is, absolutely.
is it as much fun as I told you it was gonna be?
And then so?
You can hear his
Good
enthusiasm.
answer. Okay, old business. Of course, we just talked about the Land Conservancy amendment and parking lot. We're still working on that. And we're still working on the Auburn Volunteer Fire Department request for funding with the AD, right, okay.
Waiting for pricing.
Writing for pricing, okay. So new business, we need to set a public hearing date, okay, for some amendments to our zoning. And that is, we need a public hearing for zoning amendment 2022-02. So can we set that for the next meeting,
Yeah,
public
well,
hearing?
we'd have to, because we've got, we have like do it within 28 days.
I believe our next meeting is what, on the 15th?
Yeah, and then we got 2
So-
weeks blank after that, so it'd have to be done.
It does have to.
All right, so let's set a public hearing for these zoning issues on August 15th. Should we do it at, you wanna do it at 7:15 or 7 o'clock?
I think I'd go 7.
I would too.
Yeah, so it's a pretty huge, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll set a public hearing for this zoning amendment on April 15th at 7 PM. August, I'm sorry. Okay. Gov deals agreement, we got that taken care of. Deposit agreements and change buyer's fees responsibility from 5% to 12.5%. And we did receive some Suddenlink franchise fees of the tune of $1,759.56.
Okay, I'll make a motion to put that in the land acquisition and improvement and pickleball fund.
Second.
I'll second it.
All right, PJ,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Gene,
Yes. Okay, before we go about our regular business, signing checks and what have you, is there any comments or questions from our audience tonight? Anybody? Yes, sir. Please state your name and what your question is.
My name is John Tucker, and I live down here on Auburn Road for almost 25 years. Anybody been taking a good whiff of our community lately? It smells like horse manure all over the place. I had driven down 422 with my windows wide open coming home. It smelled like horse manure all over the fields. My wife and I just drove down Taylor May this evening to go for a walk at Beartown. It smelled like horse manure. Okay? I'm getting sick and tired of this community smelling like horse manure because somebody, and I don't know who it is, I want to know who it is, why they're doing it, where it's coming from, is spraying liquid manure all over the fields and smelling up this community. I'm sorry to say this, it smells like S-H-I-T, and I'm tired of it.
Well, first of all, it is H.
What?
S-H-I-T.
It
Yeah, I know it. I'm trying to be polite.
And I'm gonna say this as nice as I can. Auburn Township is an agricultural community,
Mhm.
and that smell was here before you got here,
Mhm.
and it'll probably be here after you leave here. But there's nothing we can do about it. The farmers have every right to spread manure on their fields. I know what it smells like. I've been smelling it since 1955. But this is an agricultural community. And when people build here and buy houses here, they should know that. And some people even post signs to say, this is an agricultural community.
Okay.
So unfortunately, my answer is, you're gonna have to live with it.
Okay,
I'll let the other,
so I have a question. If we're an agricultural community,
yes,
why are we all zoned residential?
residential, agriculture, because you're next to a agricultural community who has agricultural property in between the residential, and they have every right to spread that on their fields.
Okay.
Yeah.
And actually, you can have residential property and claim agriculture and spread poop on that
Well,
R1,
I
R2, R3, R3.
I had a deal with 2 doors down from me, a puppy mill that's still there regarding poop and the smell it made, and we took care of that. It's very unfortunate though, because it's gotten worse in the past few years. It really has. And we see that truck going down, I mean, literally, you have to close your windows even when you drive. It's awful.
It kind of cuts your ear off, doesn't it?
Yeah, my wife's going, close the windows, turn the air, recirculate, just run the air conditioner. But it's, I'm gonna be honest with you, I love this community, that's why we moved out here. But it's a bad reflection on the community that you come out here, especially if you're trying to sell a house, which I'm not. But if you're trying to sell a home out here and you have a prospective buyer, you know what I mean? I don't, do we know who's doing it?
Yes,
Sure.
the
Who?
farmers.
No, it's,
No, it's farmers, I know who they are, and I'm not gonna give you their names because they are farmers and they are agricultural.
Okay.
But I have to tell you, it was agricultural before you got here, and it's gonna stay agricultural.
I'm not gonna debate that.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying. I'm telling you as a resident.
I understand.
And even, I've been in Beartown Lakes and I could smell all the way down.
I
It's-
can smell it all the way down Munn Road.
You can probably smell it at your house if the
That's
wind's
right.
blowing right. And it's sad
Absolutely.
because, you know what? You can't open your windows and you can't sit outside sometimes. And I wanted to express my opinion to this here. I think it's sad. Really, it has become worse in the past few years. This year is just awful. And it surprises me though because they're spraying fields that are basically grass fields. They're not growing anything on it except grass, probably to ultimately become hay. But that's not farming. That's just growing. You're growing grass, you're cultivating it, blah, blah, blah. You're not growing food on it, you're not, it's,
Yeah, food for animals.
yeah, what about us? So have we done anything to know if it's doing anything to the water table? Is it doing anything to the ground system by
Okay,
doing that?
well, first of all, townships have zero right to regulate agriculture. Zero
I get that.
rights to regulate agriculture. Now, and when you're going into health issues like water contamination and
Mhm.
things like that, that also, townships do not have any enforcement or
Who
any
does?
regulation.
EPA,
Well, you can start with the county, but good luck with them because they're limited as well.
and they're gonna dump it onto the EPA. And I know the EPA, well,
You got the State Department of Agriculture, Ohio Department of Agriculture, you got the Ohio Department of Health, but townships we have no control or no right to regulate any of that. And
I just, again,
I
I
don't
wanted
think
to bring it
understand
out.
why that is.
I think you've been more sensitive this year, but I can assure you, I have smelled that same smell since 1955. I can't say it's any worse or any better than it has been every year I've lived here.
I can tell you where I'm at down the road. It seems like in the past years, it's gotten worse. And they leave messes on roads too with that
Yes, they do.
stuff. So,
That's the only comments I have. Anybody else have comments about that, or think
I-
you're well documented?
no, thank
It's
you.
in the notes.
Thank you very
and,
much. That's all I want to do is just express my concern as a resident of this community. As a
Anyone else?
resident, I find it horrible.
Yeah, Diane Jones, hello. My husband Tom and I are some of those farmers that you
Mhm.
just addressed.
Mhm.
And we have been horse farmers for the last 25 years on 20 acres. And I need to tell you that the product of hay, before you disregard it as not being useful,
It is.
it is indeed.
It's,
We have to buy 1,000 bales of hay every year, and it gets more expensive every year
I know.
from local farmers.
Supply chain.
Supplies, you betcha.
I'll try to ship you semiconductors. That's the industry I'd like to
No,
do.
it's just the idea
Yeah,
that if you are devoted to animal
yeah.
livestock, you can't do it
I,
without, cows that eat hay,
Yeah.
not hay, but corn.
Corn.
It
Yeah,
smells like
Yeah.
it
yeah.
would be.
Horses, as we do, they have eaten hay that has never been rained on. Never. It's very specific and it's very critical.
I totally get it. I respect you for that and everything, but
Bill's farm over there behind it.
I don't, it's just the smell. That's all.
Yeah.
It's the smell, that's all.
Come take a look at our farm
Mhm.
on Lindsay Lane,
Okay.
where we've been doing this for the last 28 years and doing all the work ourselves, so, we invite you to come
Love
take
to
a
do
look
it.
at Wind in the Woods.
Okay.
And come enjoy the landscape and to determine that the smell that you think comes from horses
Does he
may
still
not.
have a pit?
I don't know
I'm just
I don't know
saying.
what they're producing that stuff with. I don't
I'm
know.
just saying, livestock
Yeah.
is not always livestock, it's all So if you are raising pigs, you may get one particular odor, which is, you know, just their odor, and pig farmers love it. Or horses, or goats, or sheep, or cows, you know, I mean, it's all very unique.
I remember one time a local farmer was told, boy, that manure smells really bad as I go by it. The farmer replied, it smells like money to me.
Probably.
So,
Well,
anyway,
my father always said there's money in,
yeah.
so. But thank you for the time to allow me just to
Absolutely.
express that.
Is there any other topics? Yes, sir.
Hi, I'm Dale Ryan. I'm
Hi,
the
Dale.
director of the Geauga County Fair, and
Hey,
you
Dale.
guys should have received an invitation from us
yeah,
for
we
the
did.
200th
Thank you.
fair, our bicentennial this year. I hope you come. We have, for our opening ceremony is Wednesday. The fair opens early, the day early this year for the opening and everything, so.
So you're asking township trustees and people to be a part of that, or what is exactly going to happen?
Absolutely, there's, you know, if you're interested, we're inviting all of the officials, public officials and everything to come and join into that celebration and that ceremony. We hope to have the governor and the head of the Department of Agriculture there with us for that opening. Geauga County is the oldest fair in the state of Ohio, and we believe, documented this year, the second oldest continuously running fair in the United
Country.
States.
Wow.
Yeah, I saw, what's the fair board member? He was on New Day Cleveland the other day.
Paul Harris.
Paul Harris. Paul Harris was on. So, yeah. Well, I'm there every year. I'm in the B booth. So if you come and see me in the B booth, I'll be there. So, but we have to let you know today that I just got that letter and it says you had to notify him today if you were coming.
Yeah, just return it as soon as you can.
Okay. So that'll be good.
Good.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Any other comments or quotes? Anything? No? We're good? Everybody's good? This meeting is, well, I'll call for a vote to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Make a motion?
Second,
Mike,
Vote?
yes.
PJ,
Yes.
Gene?
Yes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming. Thank you for participating in local government.
Yes, we'll see it, chief. I'll be in touch with you. I'll start looking.